Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for bringing me on your show. Welcome to our show now. Because you know I'm a journalist.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
so it's going to be our show.
It's going to be our show. Speaking about journalism, of course, he's the founder of Sahara Reporters.
Yes.
And you guys already know what they are about. So definitely it's our show now. So there seems to be a lot of overwhelming of the insecurity challenges that we have now. Yeah. But working towards 2019, how do you think there can be a resolution of all of these things? There's the herders challenge, the herders clashes that we're having with farmers. There's the matter of the Boko Haram insurgency. Then there are matters also localized
kidnapping, robbery, Niger Delta,
street gangs as well that we're having in many states. How do you see us solving this on a holistic approach to it?
Listen, the first thing that needs to be done is for President Buhari. We are speaking now between now and 2019, he won't be in power after that, I guarantee you, is to step up to the place as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. And the first thing will be to actually overhaul our security agencies. The leaders have been in charge, have shown that they're incapable of solving major security challenges. There have been cases of connivance, incompetence, mediocrity. There's been cases of corruption that I have covered a lot within the armed forces. They need to flush out the leadership of the security agencies. They need to go. And some of them are constitutionally required to have even left their positions. Some as far back as 4 years ago. They just left them there. So there's a lot of dead wood, or what I call dead weight, at the top. And without getting rid of that, you cannot have an agile and capable and competent security agencies to take care of the problems. I'll give you an example. President Buhari sent his IG to go to Benin. The man did not go, they went to a party. You know, he's still IG of police. It shows that the president has not taken control of the armed forces and that he's not serious about his job. So a lot needs to be done, and we must equip our police properly, our army, our navy, our air force. We need more area power. We need technology brought into our military services to solve some of the problems. I've been talking to people about headsmen. Some of the things that needs to be done actually is monitoring of their movements. And this can be done with drones. You know, and drones. Yeah, drones. Yeah. And there are some drones that can fly 5,000 feet above ground, and nobody will sit there, nobody can shoot at them, and they can be around for a whole day. And you just bring pilots. You know what we are doing with drones now? We're covering weddings with them. So we can just escalate those and improve on monitoring of crime. Even if in places you can't send policemen to, drones can go there. But we have not even introduced that. I was told one day by a source at the EFCC that they wanted to arrest the guy who used to lead the amnesty office of the federal government, who was eventually fired, I think Paul Boro. But apparently a person in the EFCC had tipped him off. And by the time they got there, they still saw that he just freshly dug out money from the ground. And I asked the person, I said, you guys don't have drones? There should have been a drone placed on top of his house before that would have caught that act. Even when there was a standoff between you and when they were trying to arrest the former NIA leader, NIA Director General who was accused of corruption. The DSS went there and prevented them from doing it. That ought to have been captured from, aerially, so that you can present that to the public as obstruction of justice. So they don't have capacity right now, and I don't mean like only equipment capacity, but also mental and mental capacity and intellect to run a modern security agency, and that's one of our major problems. We don't have equipment to. Probably you can never tell the truth about how many of our aircraft are capable of even delivering sorties. So the mere fact that you see an Air Force jet just zooming around or zapping, I don't mean that they can kill or disable Boko Haram. But there's been specific cases also where it's been reported that there's some high-level connivance between our security agencies, army commanders, and Boko Haram. BBC did report that they were this close to Shekau some months ago, but they stood down because the commander said they shouldn't kill him. Maybe if they had succeeded in decapitating him, Boko Haram would have been sufficiently weakened. So that also needs to happen. Even with regards to herdsmen, General Danjuma did come out and said that the military is taking sides. So this internal connivance can only be resolved with a commander-in-chief who is capable.
Wouldn't we rather just have Shekau, capture Shekau, and prosecute him, rather than just go for that kind of extrajudicial
so
killing?
There are two ways that terrorism is won in modern day, in this modern age. It's either you go all out and decapitate and kill as many of the terrorist leaders you can find, because that's what they do too. They kill. They're in the business of killing people. Or you actually find a way to negotiate with them. That's the truth. It's either you can defeat or you deflect. So the deflection here is that, okay, we don't want them to continue, but let's have a conversation. Or you can combine both, while you are decapitating to weaken, you can also have that as a means of obtaining from them ceasefires and general conversations that will lead to the cessation of hostilities.
Like amnesty?
Well,
you support that?
No, I'm not saying amnesty. Okay. I know the impact of amnesty in the Niger Delta. I know what problem it created. But beyond even that, there has to be more serious issues dealing with the root cause of it. At the bottom of all of it is the fact that for too long we've neglected education, we've neglected care for our people, and a lot of power centers who are disenchanted with the system are picking up arms. And what you mentioned amnesty, what amnesty taught a lot of people who are carrying arms against the state is that it's profitable to do so. Right now in the Niger Delta region, an average amnesty, person granted amnesty is collecting 135 million naira a month. 30,000 of them.
Let's look at the educational system that we have, and we are going to try to connect it to politics as well, just because of the not too young to run bill that happened. But you're a young man, so we should be able to get your perspective from this, and you're one of the few young people who have finally begun to show interest in not just active politics now on a local level or being used as weapons as well, like we've had in the past, but people who are beginning to have their eye on that top position even as young as they are. Now, in what way do you think that we can make that connection from the educational sector in grooming young politicians and encouraging more people to be more interested in running for politics? Because one of the problems that we have established that is the old guard that have been in power for a very long time, and even when they are not in power, they are behind as the kingmakers and as the puppeteers as well. So how do you think more young people can be encouraged, just like as you have been?
It cannot be done with sloganeering alone. As a matter of fact, I love the not too young to run people, not too young to run organizations that have made it happen. But I also don't want us to feel like we are doing this because we're young and we have this sense of entitlement, which is what the adults are doing to us. They see Nigeria as their social security, so they will never leave it because that's how they support themselves and their families. And most of them don't have jobs, as you know. But something happened fundamentally that went wrong with the leadership breeding process in this country, and it happened in 1986. It was, I think it was 86 or thereabout, that one General Bisoye was on a panel that recommended that student unionism should not be directly funded, should be made involuntary. Okay. It is the student unions of this country that produce some of were producing some of the strongest leaders of the country. So they deliberately destroyed student union movements across the country. They went after us through deliberate arrest, expulsion. I was expelled twice from the University of Lagos. They went at a point using court gangs to go after strong student union leaders and killing them. You heard about Africa in Ife. Brilliant young guy. So this is the reason why you can't have leaders, because the universities across the world are the places that produce the best minds. That's why they call it universities. University. If you go to the US today and somebody is contesting for election, the first point of reference is their academic background and what they've done. It's like, oh, he's a Harvard-trained aspirant, he's a Columbia-trained aspirant. Because they value the importance of education in developing the human mind. But what are we doing here? We're doing the opposite. We destroy education institutions, we destroy ability for students to organize, you destroy labor unions, and you replace them with market women. I'm not saying that they're inferior. And you replace them with, you know, motor garage unions.
As far as level of education.
So that's what you reap, because now, instead of politicians going to universities to explain themselves as to what they have to offer, because they know that the students will challenge them and they will not accept branded rice and Ankara, they don't go there. They go to our garage, organize our brothers there, sometimes our sisters, and say, hey, you know, this is what we want you to do. Just instead of having intellectual conversation, we are having enforcers enforcing our democratic progress. And this is what you get. This is what you get from it. And this is what needs to change. For you to change the trajectory, for you to have leaders trained, you must allow fettered exchange of ideas and knowledge within our university, within our education system. It's very, very key. We went to a place in Lagos, in Agege, and we met beggars on the streets of Agege, along the railway line there. And this woman who came from Kano said others came from Jigawa and I think Kaduna, and she was saying, they kept saying that they want to send their children to school. They kept saying Makarata, you know, which is school in the Hausa language. And I just hope that people can understand that even to the level of a beggar, the beggar understands that the only way their socioeconomic conditions can improve, the only way they can be lifted out of poverty is if their children are trained, have the right education that will make it possible for them to take them out of the situation they are in. So again, well-trained children, you know, countries that educate their youth are also building social security for their future. If you do the opposite, what you get is Boko Haram, Niger Delta militants, kidnappers. You know, some of the problem are security-related, crime-related, but a lot of it is also social, political, economic dislocations created by and fueled by leaders who are selfish.
Let's come back to student unionism quickly as a way of breeding the new breed of leaders, if we may say. Now, you talked about how even though right now in present days now we're still having proscription of a lot of student unionism.
Of course.
We had in Ife, we still had a suppressive.
We saw some students last week who are from Polytechnic of Ibadan, right? Yes, who had just been freshly expelled. Yes, we have in the studio Femi Adeyeye, who was expelled from the University of Lagos for criticizing the university on Facebook.
There's that, but you know, quickly, the question that I just want to quickly put to you, just because you have also been involved in student union politics, is that why the university administration might be doing this. Now, this is a suggestion probably, is that probably these student union members are involved more in activism more than in governance. And we know that as far as disparities go in politics, these are actually two different things. There's governance, which has to do with a lot of administration. Then there's activism, which actually has to do with advocacy. Don't you feel that is why the administrations of these universities are doing this? And most of the time, we see many of these activism become quite militant as well. How do you feel we can find a balance?
No, when a student union is set up, it is to protect the interests and the welfare of students. And they achieve this through a number of measures that are very activist. Don't get that wrong. But the reason they're expelling them is not because they're activists. It's because they don't want to breed leaders for our society that can take it to the next level. It's deliberate. All of them are working hand in hand together. And when that is the case, you know, I mean, what is the militancy in writing on Facebook? Tell me, what is activism about? Even the professors of the university, the vice chancellors, they have Facebook pages. And they criticize the government, they criticize foreign governments. So it's just like you say that Trump is an idiot, for example, and do you expect Trump to now send a missile to your house to level it? No, because that is not what is expected of him. And that's not how societies are run. Activism, there's nothing wrong with activism. We shouldn't criminalize activism. If students go beyond their bounds, then that is understood. You can, even during our time when I was in the University of Lagos, we would fight court gangs and hand them over to the police ourselves. But we don't expect police to come and fight student union governments on the campus. But we found out that policemen are not opposed to court gangs. They like them, they're children of the rich. But they're opposed to legitimate student union on campus that was fighting for democracy, fighting against military rule. That's what brought Nigeria to the level that it is today.
Okay, quickly in rounding, let's talk about infrastructure.
Yes.
The level of infrastructure that we have, especially as far as roads go, because we know that when we talk about infrastructure with roads, these are part of the things that encourage trade. That's some trade among different regions in this. How far do you think we have gone with this, and how can we move forward with this? Because we see a lot of money getting allocated to this every year in every budget, and we almost don't see any work done. What do you think can be done about this in turning this around, this infrastructure lacuna that we have?
Hey, we actually have to accept that we don't have infrastructure. Our starting point is to assume that we don't have, and we have to build rapidly and aggressively infrastructure that connect people together, that facilitate education, that facilitate power distribution, because for example, distributing 7,000 megawatts of electricity, producing 7,000 megawatts of electricity, we can only distribute 3,000. So that means there's insufficient, we don't have sufficient power lines in the country. We don't have sufficient road networks. We don't have an interstate highway system where every city or every state capital is linked with a dual carriageway, which will reduce accidents and will facilitate better movement of people, goods and services. We don't have a train system in the country right now that we need to build. So really, we have an infrastructure deficit, and that is what can drive modern economy. It's what can make us work. We don't have electricity. We have to build electrical infrastructures and increase our electricity from where it is now, 7,000, 3,000 transmitted to 20,000 for it, and before we can even open our mouth in public, in the international world. So this is how to do it. But the current government, the current operators of our system are not capable mentally of producing the kind of society that can support the generation that we have now. This generation is very upward and mobile, and they have connected already to the rest of the world. They understand what's going on in other parts of the world, and they understand that when they take their skills elsewhere, things work for them. In fact, for an average Nigerian, the only place that is not working for an average Nigerian is Nigeria itself. Sometimes you hear people who came from Libya, they'll tell you that they are doing better in Libya than they are doing in Nigeria. And some of them that were even rescued have gone back. That's the kind of country we are in. So I don't want to talk about improving infrastructure. I want to talk about rebuilding infrastructure completely. There's no reason we're in Ibadan today, and I can't stop saying it, that why it should take 20 years to fix Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. It's going to be 20 years, but they've been trying to do it since 1999 when President Obasanjo came. It will be 20 years next year that they've been trying to fix it. They've done all kinds of arrangements and forms. There was a time it was IPP, it was a time it was government, but you also heard at the time one of the BOT members of PDP stole 300 billion met for road construction. When the Ziani got there, she was crying. All of it, all of the drama did not produce any results. So it's just to say, look, let's just assume we don't have. Let's build new infrastructure and make this country work again, and put Nigerians back to work as well.
All right, build new infrastructure from the scratch, rather than improving on the ones that we have now. But least time that we have, like, just any last words on the general state of the nation, especially moving towards the 2019 election.
There's nothing else I can tell you to say that I, Omoyele Sowore, will be running to become president in 2019. And I believe that myself and others who are part of a movement that is planning to rescue Nigeria, we're the best chance you have.
Okay.
I know NBC is getting upset, but we just have to say it.